Athletes keep making these 7 mistakes that are killing their sprint speed. The first mistake is driving their arms forward and up. So the issue with kind of doing that full, forward and back range of motion is that there is no real reason to drive your elbows up. The way you produce force onto the ground, so the way you actually run faster, pop off the ground, is by driving the arm back, because there's a sling, like think of a string, and the string goes all the way to the opposite glute. So if you drive your left arm back, that string is gonna activate your right glute. You're gonna produce high amount of force on that glute. So when you drive it up, you're kind of doing absolutely nothing. And I'm gonna get into a mistake that people make later, that they try to match to kind of pair together with this elbow up type of sprinting, but it really ends up doing nothing except for tensing your shoulders and making you end up running slower. The next mistake I see, and this is probably one of the biggest ones I've ever seen, is driving the knees up. This is gonna make a lot of people mad, but driving the knees up is counterproductive of what you're trying to do. To run faster, you have to create something called vertical impulse, or vertical force production. To produce force, you have to place force into the ground so it can, how physics works, shoot you back up into the sky. So you actually have to slam into the ground to produce force. What people do is they're driving their knees up, and it's actually doing the opposite, giving rid of, like, you're not even producing force, you're just throwing into the sky, and then you're actually producing way less force because you're trying to have your knees as high as possible. That's just like, it's completely counterproductive. Like, you're actually activating your hip flexor, turning off your glute, and then you're just kind of going through this backwards cycle when you're supposed to be going like this: produce force, produce force, produce force, produce force, produce force, produce force, and people are going like this: up, 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 up. So you're really going backwards, honestly. So the better way to go about it is what I call hammering the nail. So think of a nail and you have a hammer. What are you doing? You're smashing it down. So when you're running, you want to smash into the ground as hard as possible. Don't do too much. Obviously, you still have to be elastic. You don't want to be too long on the ground, but you want to be able to produce a lot of force by stomping the ground almost, or hammering the nail. Now, if you're someone who wants to accelerate your results even more, get faster in even less time, make sure you click the link in the description below or in the comment section to download my free guide on sprinting. These are the exact same topics I share with my actual sprinting clients, my athletes who run 10.2, 10.4, 10.6 in the 100-meter, but I'm giving it all for free on this free guide, but only for a limited time, so hop on it right now. The next thing that pro sprinters do that you probably don't is landing under their center of mass. So pro sprinters are really good at landing right under and having a straight line from their head all the way to their ankle. This is for max force production. So think about physics. When you're putting horizontal momentum, so you're getting more momentum, you're trying to build up kind of like a horse or like a car. Once you land under your center of mass, all you're doing is propelling yourself forward more, since you already built up that speed. And even in acceleration, you see pro sprinters, though they might land a little bit in front just so they can kind of drive and get a little more force and use a little more of their muscular dominance. But for the most part, they're trying to land under their center of mass so they can switch legs faster and then continue to produce force. When you land too far out, think about it, you have to try to claw your way back. You have to try to recover from landing too far out. So it's really important to land under, that way you don't have to recover longer and you continue to just produce force in that rapid motion. The next one pro sprinters do is relaxing their shoulders. This is a huge one. So relaxation is key to sprinting. A lot of people who are way too tense, usually from lifting way too much, they do way too much barbell work, too much squatting. They try to use their muscular dominance, and the way you use that muscular force is by tensing up. When you want to actually be fast, the top sprinters all use elastic energy. Elastic energy is your ability to kind of be free, how to use your stretch shorting cycle and use the real power in your body. And that power comes from relaxation, from being as little tense as possible and not really tapping into that muscular side, that lever one, that class one lever from my coaches, you know what I'm talking about. So if you're struggling with relaxation, I will say let go of your hands, drop your shoulders and relax. Let your lower lip kind of flop a little bit. These are some good cues that I use with some of my sprinters who really struggle with that relaxation portion. The next thing pro sprinters do is relaxing between sets. So this sounds very like, oh, that's just basic. Everyone knows how to relax and rest between sets, but resting between sets is the key. So a lot of people try to sprint, let's say a 40-meter dash or 40-yard dash, and they're like, okay, it's time to grind, football mindset, let's do another set right now. You're not gonna get better if you don't grind. That whole grind mentality is just not how you improve. So for you to produce max force, you have to rest 2 to 3, 4, 5, 6 minutes to be able to repeat that. Now, if you can't do multiple sets of max intensity, max force, your max output, guess what? You're not gonna stress your body enough to actually make an adaptation. So if you don't stress your body at all because all you did was one good set and 6 bad ones because you just kept repeating and waiting 10 seconds and going another one, then guess what? You're gonna go nowhere. If anything, you're actually gonna get slower because you're producing slow twitch fibers. You're telling your body, this is how I sprint 90% of the time. It's because I did one good rep and then 6 bad ones. I sprint like this 90% of the time. So why don't you adapt to be that fast? So you're only gonna get slower. So a quick little framework I use in my Just Sprint program, link in the bio. For every 10 meters that you travel, you should at least have 2 minutes of rest. So you do a 10-meter sprint, then you have to do 2-minute rest before you do the next 10 meter. If you do a 40-meter sprint, then you have to do an 8-minute rest before the next 40 meter. Tell me in the comments below, have you ever tried doing that rest framework where you do 2 minutes for every 10 meters? Let me know in the comments below. The sixth thing that all pro sprinters have done is eating between workouts and inside of workouts. So this is like a small little hack is you want to have sugar in between workouts. I know this sounds terrible, but stuff like gummy worms or Rice Krispies, don't overeat them. All you need is like one, a couple, like a little handful. You don't need to have like multiple servings, but gives you that kind of like that boost, like that little like adrenaline rush that you need to actually keep you going. So it's really good for sprint workouts. When you're halfway through, you probably have 4 more sets and you just need to get that little bit extra out. Or you're doing like a power workout in the weight room, you do some squats and you just need 2 more sets, you just need a little more energy and get a little tired. And later in the day, this is great to just kind of throw in there. A lot of pro sprinters just kind of dabble in, kind of snack a little bit. It's really not as bad as, some people will make it out to be. Especially if it's a carb source, that's the whole point, carbs, right? Just one. Now, number 7, the most important thing that all pro sprinters do that you are not doing, 90% of you guys aren't doing if you're watching this video, is racing others. Timing yourself. These 2 things, racing others and timing yourself. If you are going to a sprint workout and you are not timing yourself every single rep, you are not going anywhere. You wanna know why? Because you are not stressing yourself at max capacity. You're not running at 100%. You flat out aren't. You could try as much as you want to, but if you don't have feedback to see what the time was, you'll never actually challenge yourself to go even harder than that. And if you're not racing someone who might be faster than you, or even if they're slower than you, they could start, a second in front of you, you're never gonna challenge yourself to actually improve. So guess what? When you go to that track meet, you're nervous, you're not actually adapting to anything, so you haven't gotten faster, and you're not used to competition. You're not used to reacting. You're not used to having someone next to you that whole time. So you're gonna get burnt. You're gonna get burnt every time. If you're not timing yourself, you're not timing your 40s, your 20s, your 10 meters, your 30 meters, your 100 meters, your 150 repeats, your 200 meter repeats. You're not timing any of that, you're not gonna go nowhere. You're not gonna improve at all. I promise you're not gonna improve. Try doing this for 2 weeks and see how much you improve. I promise you. Go in the comment section below. In 2 weeks, do all this timing and tell me how much you improve. You will literally get faster. That's the whole purpose of Just Sprint, is how we do this. The key takeaway that I want you to take home with this video is that speed isn't all genetics. There's a lot of things that pro sprinters do that are natural habits that you need to start forming so you can actually become a better sprinter and reach the high levels. I promise you 90% of you guys can run a 10.200 meter. Some people say that's pro, some people say that's not, but that's way faster than what you're at right now. So let's get after it. So knowing all these good habits is pretty much useless if you don't know how to properly train your speed within your speed workout. So make sure you watch this video right here to learn how to train your